What are you capable of? If you remove the obstacles that are holding you back in your life, can you get honest with yourself? And what are those obstacles that are holding you back? Especially in family business. Is it unhealthy family dynamic? Is it a right person, right seat issue? Is it a lack of process? Is it that you're not addressing or going into the dark forest of your issues to find the right solution? What are the things that are holding you back from becoming your absolute best? Strengthen the love, the legacy, and the lifestyle in your family business. This is Fearless Family Business. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Fearless Family Business Show. My name is Adam Hill. I'm your host, and I'm really glad you're here today because you are here on a day where I am celebrating. I am celebrating 13 years of continuous sobriety for myself from alcoholism. And that's right. Yeah, 13 years today. 13 years ago today, I walked out of a jail cell and into the rooms of recovery, never picking up a drink again. And my life changed forever. And there's a reason that I'm bringing that up today, because as I reflect on those 13 years of sobriety, I think about all that's changed in my life, all that I was able to achieve or accomplish, and how much more value I'm able to provide in the world because I removed that unhealthy obstacle of alcohol from my life. It's really changed everything. And when I reflect on that, I think about, and especially now as you know, I'm transitioning into the world of EOS, and we've been operating at our company under EOS for the last 3.5 years, and I myself am an implementer, helping other companies to implement that. And I think about family businesses and how they operate effectively, and I've been reflecting on the similarities there between the unhealthy habits that we might practice, like alcoholism, and the unhealthy dynamics that might exist in a business that inhibit us from being our absolute best in that business. And I think that there's a lot of parallels. And I want to share today some of those experiences that I've had and how we can apply them maybe to our businesses in terms of how can we remove those unhealthy habits within our companies to make it so that we are uninhibited and able to grow effectively. And so I'll share some of those with you today, but I want to kind of get into my story a little bit. And if you haven't, I'm not going to dive too deep into it, because if you want to learn more about my recovery from alcoholism and how I went from being an active alcoholic to being sober and ultimately competing in the Ironman World Championship, you can read that in my book, Shifting Gears, which is available on Amazon, and you can find it where all books are sold. You can even find it on Audible if you want to hear my voice share that. So pick up a copy if you'd like to read my story. But ultimately, I started drinking heavily in college when I realized that it was a social lubricant for me, and it helped me to really get out of my shell, and I felt like the life of the party, and I had just frankly a lot of fun when I was drinking, which my life when I wasn't drinking wasn't a whole lot of fun. Inside, I had a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear, and a lot of inner turmoil that just seemed to go away whenever I just started picking up a cup of really crappy keg beer. And so that worked for a while, but then it started to get really bad. It got to a point in my life where I was drinking myself into blackouts on the weekends, and white knuckling it through the weeks, trying to make it through, seeming like I was functioning. Now, first of all, does that sound familiar? Where if maybe in your business in some ways or in your life, you are white knuckling it through the week to wait to get to a point where you can enjoy whatever you want, and you're not enjoying it through your life throughout. You're just tolerating basically the week so that you can get to the weekend. That was my life for about a decade. When I finally got sober in 2012, 13 years ago today, It was after a DUI accident where fortunately nobody was hurt. And again, you can read about the details in my book. When I walked out of that jail cell, I realized that this was no life for me to live, that I was more of a danger to others than just myself, and that I was not going to be a productive member of society if I could not stop drinking. And so I walked into the rooms of recovery, was welcomed with open arms by my brothers and sisters in sobriety. And that changed everything for me. And I realized, and from there, I mean, the very first miracle that happened was just getting sober, something I never thought that I could do, but I was able to stay sober for that first year because of the rooms of sobriety, because I got into those rooms with people who had what I wanted. And I was able to, I was in a community of people who were working towards what I wanted, which was sobriety. And after that year of sobriety, I realized, wow, if I could achieve that, maybe there's other things that I could do. What else have I wanted to do that I haven't done? Maybe instead of just tolerating my life throughout the week to make it to the weekend, what would life look like if I tried to enjoy every single day and had gratitude every single day and appreciation? And that led me to the path where I started competing in the Ironman World Championship. I spent the next 4 years training and building my endurance and running triathlon races until I became one of the best amateur Ironman triathletes in the world, ultimately finishing in the top 3 in Santa Rosa on a show called Ironman Quest for Kona. And then qualifying for the Ironman World Championship, a race that only accepts the top 1% of Ironman athletes in the world. And so I achieved that because of sobriety, because I removed the obstacle, the unhealthy obstacle that was standing in my way of achieving what I wanted to achieve. And then beyond that, I was able to become a CEO of my family's business. I was able to have the honor and the privilege of working with a team to help scale that company from 8 to 9 figures. And I was able to write my book, to publish my book, to become a TEDx speaker, all of these things because I removed the obstacle of alcohol from my life. That was really the first step. And I spent a lot of that time removing the unhealthy obstacles after that. After I realized what removing one unhealthy obstacle could do, I spent a lot of time removing other unhealthy obstacles as well so that I could be the best I wanted to do. And now as an EOS implementer, I am committed, and as a family business advisor, I'm committed, and I know that I can help other families to do the same in theirs. But there's a lot of overlap that sobriety, that this thing called sobriety has taught me about running a healthy business. And I think, from one standpoint, it's what are the specific tools that we can use to really help us to identify the obstacles that are holding us back. And then what can we do about those to actually remove those obstacles and not tolerate them anymore? Because if you tolerate something, you endorse it. So my question to all of you as you're listening to this is not, by the way, to just share, hey, look at all of the great accomplishments that I've had. It's really to share an example of what we're capable of if we remove the unhealthy obstacles from our lives or from our businesses. I removed alcohol and was able to do more with my life than I ever thought was possible, which is a miracle and a blessing. What are you capable of if you remove the obstacles that are holding you back in your life, in your business? Can you get honest with yourself about that? And what are those obstacles that are holding you back? Especially in family business. Is it an unhealthy family dynamic? Is it a right person, right seat issue? Is it a lack of process? Is it that you're not addressing or going into the dark forest of your issues to find the right solution? Is it a lack of courage on all behalf? Is it artificial harmony that's holding you back? What are the things that are holding you back? What are those unhealthy behaviors that are holding you back from becoming your absolute best? If you're in a multi-generational family business that has lasted a generation or more, or you're profitable, or you're making money. It's not the product or the service or the value proposition that you have. There may be a different dynamic or an obstacle. So if you have the right products or services and you're in the right markets for those, then are you doing everything you can to smooth out the road to being successful on that? And that's a key role in being a leader, being a CEO, or being the top person on the leadership team of a company. Is your job is to constantly not just remove obstacles to success, but to make sure that whatever crap is floating to the surface that is affecting your day-to-day, that you're pushing it out, that you're delegating all of that and elevating yourself into your best possible role in the company. So again, I'll ask, what are you capable of if you remove the obstacles that are driving that? So why do we stay in those unhealthy dynamics? Why did I keep drinking if it was so painful? Well, the answer, I believe, is rooted in the idea that we stay in those unhealthy dynamics, whether it's a relationship, whether it's alcoholism, whether it's just ignoring the key issues. The reason is because they're comfortable right now. And even if they are uncomfortable, it's the discomfort we do know that is in place of the uncertainty that we don't know. What if this happens? What if this? What if that? That what if is always scarier than the reality we exist in right now. So we stay in those unhealthy habits. We stay in them because they're comfortable right now, but growth and development and achievement and accomplishment only comes with discomfort, with resistance, with going into that dark forest. So I want to start there and just simply say that if you're struggling with addressing those key issues in your business, or you're afraid to go and address or you're afraid to push the artificial harmony in the other direction and go into some kind of conflict, or you're afraid of that desire to stay quote unquote comfortable is keeping you where you are and preventing growth. It is the willingness to go into that discomfort that's going to cause growth. And so feel the discomfort, be okay with it. It's okay to feel the discomfort of all of that, and realize that that this is going to be hard and this is going to be uncomfortable, and do it anyway, because that's ultimately where the growth comes from. And if you can develop a healthy leadership team that is willing to go into that conflict in a healthy way, not in an unhealthy, mean-spirited way, but in a healthy way, they're willing to address the key issues and the elephants in the room, well, then you're going to have more of a chance of removing those obstacles because you're willing to go there. Going there is where it is. When I finally got real with myself in alcoholism and admitted that I have a problem, it was easier for me to go out and find a solution for it because I'd already acknowledged that there was a problem. And it's never easy per se, but the solutions are almost always simple. And that's why we have to kind of get in that. So I want to spend the rest of this episode kind of talking about some ideas or tips and how to remove those obstacles, to remove the unhealthy obstacles that exist in your business, so that you can run a healthy business and be uninhibited in your growth and your success. And in family business, this is especially true because we have the complex family dynamics. And if we're not careful, if we're not addressing those key issues, well, we can affect our relationships with our family. We can create, without even wanting to, unhealthy dynamics in our own family life. And we want to avoid that. We want to do everything we can to have a healthy relationship with our family. So one of the first tips that I have is to put a system in place. And this is, if you want to build a healthy company, you have to have a system for how you operate that business. On all sides, from how you're creating a vision, from how you're dealing with people, what you're measuring, and the processes that you're putting in place, and how you're going into the dark forest of addressing issues. And this is very similar to how people get sober in alcoholism. Because when I got sober, I talked about walking into the rooms of recovery. I walked into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. And in Alcoholics Anonymous, they have a system called the 12 steps. Those 12 steps are specifically designed to help walk you through the journey of sobriety, so that you can form a healthy relationship with yourself while also getting sober. And so those 12 steps are essentially the solution, the system for how to get and stay sober. Similarly, you need a system for your business, an operating system, a system that kind of walks you through the series to success. And the good news is that there have been millions upon millions of businesses in the history of the world as examples for how we can operate. There's examples for how we should not operate from bad businesses. There's examples for how we should operate within good businesses. And the great news is that you don't have to go and seek and do that research. There's already systems out there, business systems out there that have already done that work for you. My favorite is something I've mentioned time and time again on this podcast, which is the entrepreneurial operating system. That's the most simple and well-articulated business system there is to help you run a better business, to articulate your vision, gain traction, discipline, and accountability, and become a healthy business. And so Gino Wickman did a lot of that work of researching the greatest companies in the world and figuring out what it takes to help remove those obstacles and pave the way to success. So look at the EOS system, the 6 key components, where you're looking at your vision, your people, your data, your issues, your process, and finally gaining that execution, that traction component, and how all those work together. If you can get strong in those 6 key components, that's going to help you to run a healthier business. The second thing that I want to articulate is kind of rooted in one of those 6 elements, and that is to clearly articulate that vision and plan that you want. When I got sober, what was the vision for me? Well, I wanted to be sober. That was the specific vision that I had for myself. When I wanted to start racing in Ironman triathlon, what was my vision? I wanted to qualify for the Ironman World Championship. I saw it so clearly in my mind's eye that that's what I wanted to achieve. Same thing with writing a book or starting a podcast or anything like that. Be clear about what that vision is. Clearly articulate that vision and plan and make sure everybody's aligned around it. Because when you can do that, everybody's going to be rowing in the same direction. And if somebody gets off track, you can always point them back to the vision and say, this is the target. This is where we are going. Articulate that vision and plan. And then the third tip I want to do to kind of remove those unhealthy obstacles from your business and become a healthy business is to dive into that conflict and make healthy conflict your friend. Naturally, there's going to be conflict. And we do 2 things. A lot of times we do one of 2 things when we're faced with conflict. We either ignore it, artificial harmony, we just try and pretend it's not there, or we just address it at the surface level. When we address it at the surface level, the issue keeps coming back. The other side of it, we tend to get mean about it. We tend to get angry when conflict arises. We want to blame people. And both those sides of the equation are not healthy, meaning that both of them don't get to the root of the issue. So instead, you should be curious. You should be willing to, in a healthy way, dive into that conflict, put that issue in front of you instead of between you, and be curious and not judgmental about it. Ask more questions and trust the process of solving those key issues, making sure that you're addressing that conflict head on. Because in a world where growth is going to happen, especially within a business or within personal development, in order for that growth to happen, as I mentioned, discomfort is going to happen. Conflict is going to happen. So you have to be willing to go into that conflict. So do it in a healthy way and understand that it's okay to get into that conflict, but just make it so that it's part of the process, and then trust the process of making sure that you're resolving that conflict. That's how you remove that as an obstacle. Another tip that I want to give you today is to become fiercely committed to removing the obstacles that get in the way of your health. You have to be fiercely committed to it, both personally and in the business. If you're not willing to do it, and this is an important one, you might be thinking to yourself like, well, why wouldn't I be willing to remove those obstacles? A lot of people aren't. It again goes back to the idea that if you're comfortable with the discomfort you're feeling now, you're going to stay there. You're going to stay in that in whatever area you're comfortable, unless you're triggered to move into some kind of change. And in order to do that, you have to be willing and committed to doing it. So when you're committed, then when it gets hard or when it gets scary, you're still willing to have the courage to go in there and do it. So for me, I had to address my alcoholism because I was becoming a danger to others. And that was addressing the artificial harmony that I was creating in myself, thinking that everything's okay. I'm okay. I don't have a problem, but I did. And by addressing it, by being committed to address it, I was able to stay sober. Are you committed to making the changes in your business that remove an unhealthy dynamic? Maybe it's a really, really hard people decision that you have to make. Maybe there's somebody that you need to have a conversation with who it's either you need to shape up or you need to get out, and that person is maybe one of the is a key player in your organization. Those are hard conversations to have, but if you're committed to removing those obstacles that lead to an unhealthy dynamic, that's what has to get done. Then another thing that sobriety really taught me about creating a healthy business, about running a healthy business, is that we need to surround ourselves with a community. And here's what I mean by that. Specifically, that community that we should be a part of has to be relevant to the issues that we're facing. There's family business councils all over the country that you can be a part of that have other family businesses that are going through similar challenges that you might be going through. Those are great to join. And the best communities in the world, including the community of Alcoholics Anonymous and communities of recovery, have these two qualities about them. They have mentorship, meaning there's a person in there or there's people in there that have what you want, that have gone through the crucible of what you're going through now to see success on the other side. And they're the ones you can learn from and who can help guide you through that. And the other element that those communities have is a cohort. It has a group of people that are also maybe at the same stage, maybe a little higher, maybe a little lower than where you are right now, but are going through the same things. And you can lean on those people for support, for accountability, and to really grow. And there's tons of different communities for tons of different purposes. I mentioned family business councils that have a lot of that. I've mentioned, talked about EOS. EOS is a community of people that are driving to help each other and hold one another accountable. You can also depend on the community that exists within your workplace, within your family business itself. But be willing to not just be in the bubble in that community, but outside of the bubble, to find those relevant communities that might be able to support you. And if you're looking for that person who has been through it on the family business front, who's gone through significant challenges, who has come out the other side stronger and has been able to work with a team to scale the company, then reach out to me, call me, because I can help walk you through that. I can help walk you through it from the perspective of another family business leader that has worked through a lot of those challenges and has also personally developed himself. So yeah, by all means, reach out and we'll see how I can help. And then the final thing is really another important one for family businesses and personally, because we see this a lot in the world. We just frankly want to blame. And we have to be willing internally to self-reflect, to look inside at ourselves and see where we need to change so that we can be better. A lot of times there may be obstacles that come at us that we can't necessarily control. And we can either look at those obstacles and say, yeah, well, I guess we're just the victim now. And I guess we can't change anything. So we'll get angry, we'll get resentful, we'll blame everything else on our current situation. But in reality, that's just the way of life. A lot of times situations hit us that we can't control. And we need to adapt, we need to adjust. And if we can self-reflect and figure out, go internally on how we can change and not change the environment or the situation or demand that everybody else around us change, but we change. Then we get out of victim mode. And victim mode is a dangerous place to be because victim mode keeps us in our addictions. It keeps us in those unhealthy dynamics. And so the reason I share this is relevant in sobriety to something called the Serenity Prayer, which states that, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. That's leadership, ladies and gentlemen. There are things that we cannot change, and we need to accept those things. But if we can control the things that we can control and know the difference between those two, we can remove the obstacles that prevent us from achieving true success, either personally or professionally in our family businesses. That's the key lesson for sobriety within family business. I celebrate today 13 years of sobriety. And it's exciting to look back on that because it's something that when I first got sober, I never could have imagined I would be where I am today. And by the way, if you are struggling with alcoholism or addiction, please know that there is help. Please know that there are resources out there to help you. There are communities out there to help you get sober. Please find them and get in touch with them and be willing to change because life gets so much better out of that. It doesn't get easier, but it gets better. And if you're in a business that's struggling, you can recognize, and as I've recognized through this process, that the path of sobriety is really a path of living a healthy life. And when we can live a healthy life, we can also run a healthy business because we can apply those same principles of sobriety into our businesses and really begin to remove the things that inhibit us from becoming the best business we can for the sake of our employees, for the sake of our shareholders or stakeholders, and for the sake of the communities that we serve. We have an obligation and a responsibility to be our best. And so take that responsibility. Don't place blame. Take that responsibility. Focus on looking at the obstacles that are really getting in the way of your success. Have the courage to go into that dark forest and make the change that you need to. I will tell you, if you can treat your business in the same way, with the same level of humility that people that are willing to just get sober now are treating their lives, you can remove a lot of obstacles. So I hope you take that to heart. And it's just been something that's on my mind lately as I cross that 13-year sobriety threshold. If you're on that journey of sobriety with me, congratulations. And I keep wishing you a life of sober happiness. And if you're in that journey in your business, don't hesitate to reach out and see how we could support you. I'm always thrilled to show businesses how they can succeed if they're willing to make those changes. Thank you so much for joining me today. Look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks for joining me on this episode of the Fearless Family Business Show. If you're enjoying this show, please thumbs up this episode and subscribe wherever that subscribe button is. And you'll get more family business education and insights in your inbox. And if this episode resonated with you, share it with a friend, a colleague, a spouse, your mom, your dad, a second cousin, whomever you think might benefit from hearing this show. And if you're in a family business and you've got a great story to share, contact me because I would love to see if you'd be a great fit for this show. I'd love to interview you. Or if you're struggling in your family business to find your unique identity or voice, or you need an injection of new life into your family business, I'd also love to hear from you. I'd love to learn more about you, and I'd love to see if I can help. Simply email me at adam@fearlessfamilybusiness.com, and we'll get you connected to the right place. Together, we can elevate the love, the legacy, and the lifestyle we all experience in our family businesses. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.